What's up, everybody? All those on Facebook, the Science of Living fam, go ahead and let us know you are here. You are with the head of my construction team, Mr. Roddy. He is running, how many deals are you running for us at this point? Not including the apartments, 23,
Uh,
28,
Something just shy of 30.
just shy of 30. So he's running about 30 deals for us. He is the man I rely on to essentially run all of our deals, including the apartments. We just bought two separate apartments um, in Birmingham, Alabama. One is a 22-door apartment. The other is a 32-door apartment. Today's training is about the 32-door apartment. He and my general manager, Anthony Frusciano, went and flew out there last week, right, dude?
Yep, so we can go.
Flew out there last week to go walk it to make sure all of our numbers were in alignment. We already had it pre-built, knowing we were going to be funding. And so I'm going to take the time today to work with Roddy and show you guys exactly why the deal makes sense, what we're going to be doing to the deal, all the things that you guys want to know, why and how I'd be buying apartment buildings sight unseen is because I have someone like Roddy that can watch my back and make sure we're making the right decisions so we don't go, there's always some fluctuation in budget, but we don't go, 20% over budget, right? So let's talk about as this going through space to land to me. Um, Talk to me about how that went walking the property with Anthony to start.
All right, so usually when we're looking at stuff like this, we obviously are looking at it online first, and we're looking at pictures and videos. And uh, I just from experience, and this is for everybody listening from experience, I don't really listen to what a wholesaler's got to tell me, or an agent has to tell me, or whoever's selling the property has to tell me, because at the end of the day, I know half of it's right, the other half of it's unknown. So I just look at what I get, what I'm provided, and I make a decision like, okay, from what I see, it's rehabable, but you've always got to see something that big, right? So Anthony and I did go down there and look at it. We walked the building, and I'm glad we did because and Anthony can testify to this, like to see the grandeur, the scope of these buildings, to see that there's four separate buildings, and then to be able to walk them because they're completely vacant. And the way we got there was very complex, right? Um, we're in a rough neighborhood, and dogs are running through the neighborhoods, that kind of neighborhood. So it's me, Anthony, and one of our agents, Hannah. We're having, we do what we do, having a good time. And we walked the property, but it was good to actually be in the house. It was good to feel what the floors look like. A bunch of those buildings have been framed, which saves big time money. You can't see that in some of the pictures, and as in fact, some of the pictures that were sent to me didn't show any framing. Right, all they talk about is the fire damaged building, which of course is a concern for us right off the bat. But what they didn't say is three of the buildings are still framed up pretty good, where we can salvage 90% of that, which is huge. It's a huge budget, right? It's a huge cost savings. So I was happy about that. And I got to walk the fire building to determine what we could salvage. At the end of the day, the only thing we can salvage is the shell. Everything is going to get gutted from the inside out. It's that simple. Um, the beauty of the fire damage was it was so significant that it demoed out everything anyway, right? It got rid of everything. And the brick was basically what's last standing. There's a few floors that are kind of like, falling. We'll just knock those down and get rid of it. So, and this is part of our case study, that helps us determine what's of our plan of attack, but it also helps us determine while we're walking each building what the budget's going to be. And as we build a budget in our mind, how are we going to attack each building? What comes first, second, third, and fourth? Because there's four buildings. And in multifamily redevelopment, you're not building for structure. See, the difference in new construction is if these were new construction buildings, you're going to be pouring concrete and footings at the same time for four different developments. And rehabbing, because of budget, because of time, and because of strategy, you want to attack each building one by one. So our strategy, again, as we're walking the building, and I'm talking with Hannah, was, and Anthony's talking as well, we're all sitting there going, well, what if we rehab one building and then rent, start collecting the cash flow, attack the next building? We already have the budget. So it's just a matter of dissecting it building by building. And we're going to leave the fire building, which needs the most work, which is basically new construction. We're going to leave that for last, right? So we don't want to be stuck on the big project of the project for months on end when we can rehab these ones, right? And have them rented. And that's kind of the idea, and it's in our case study. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I would advise any investor, and I don't even care how experienced you are, you can be the best of the best. You've done thousands of flips. Go walk these houses. If you're going to put the kind of money in here, or you're going to syndicate it, or you're going to raise capital, somebody on your team has to go look at these on your That's Pike. Somebody on your team has to really be looking at these types of properties You know what I can do? If you share the screen with me, I can open up my system and then I can share the pictures from Moxo. Because I took pictures and videos of the site so that people can see the size and grandeur of. So this is a picture from one of the buildings up top, looking down at the fire building. Clearly, you see everything is gone. It gives you kind of perspective that yeah, nothing's salvageable, but it's better that way. We want to be able to kind of do our own thing, right? This picture gives you perspective of the other buildings behind it, so you see the condition of building one, which is obviously above it. The brick on the exterior, that is perfect. You see there's no windows, but the roofs are all brand new, right? But then you see the building two, which is the one I'm looking at with the fire. You can see from the inside that everything's got to go. But more importantly, you can look at the brick on the inside and see that it's burnt so bad, but brick is brick, right? So we can use that. If you look at the bottom right corner of this picture, you'll see how good condition the brick still is. It's just missing a lot of brick. But we're going to paint the buildings anyway. So as long as we can match the size and type of brick, it doesn't matter what color the brick is, right? So we have a bonus there. If it was like, oh, we've got to go back to this kind of Firestone brick, that'd be hard to find a lot of that brick because a lot of this brick is 100 years old. They don't make brick like this anymore. That's why brick doesn't match up. Same thing with 2x4s. 100-year-old homes, right, that our grandparents and great grandparents lived in, they actually were 2x4s. They're smaller now. They're not really 2x4s anymore. So you can't fit a modern day being into a 100-year-old, pocket or joist. They're not the same size. So the good thing about this is we can gut that, keep the remaining shell, and then build off what's existing. Um, and you know, Anthony and I were kind of laughing about this too. You'll realize that the ground, like the whole development of ground, I'm talking about like not even the buildings, is so hilly that these buildings are not even the same height at certain times. Like building two is lower than building one. You can kind of tell that already. And then you walk across the parking lot. Let me see if there's more. You walk across the parking lot. I wish I could show this video. I don't know why I won't play. But if you walk this parking lot, I mean, this gives you perspective of this is the building three, which is right across from the fire building. And you can kind of see that structurally, everything's in good shape. You can see new framing on the inside. Jack and I, Jack's our sub, we walked it. We're going to walk it again, of course, and we're going to determine if we like the footprint as is. If we're going to do some modifications. Obviously, we'll talk with Anthony about that too, because we want to make sure we get the best bang for the buck, obviously. But, all of that is steel on the outside. That used to be a steel stair column. Obviously, the stairs are gone. So everything will be redeveloped with wood. It's cheaper anyway. We don't need any welding, all the good stuff. But it kind of gives you perspective. I wish I had. Let me see if I can upload more pictures. Go ahead and talk a little bit, Justin. I'm going to upload more pictures from my phone to Moxo so I can share some more.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to do for you guys is I'm going to share my screen real quick, or I guess, yeah, while you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen. Stop other screen, share my screen.
Yeah, I
I'm
got to stop. Let me
going to share
stop. Yeah,
this.
I
There
just
you go.
stopped.
So this is the performa very quickly to go over because it's not going to be a total exact science, but I'll give you kind of our capital stack is we needed to buy it for 260 and we're going to need to put in roughly 900,000. So if you look here, C3 and G23, those are your gross amounts that are be coming in, right? So we need to be able to fund, give or take, 1.5 million, right? And here's the number right here, 1.45. You can see the ARV after we complete this entire project, we're going to have somewhere north of 200 or 2.5 million is going to be the value of the home. Why does this mean so much to me? Because I'm not necessarily doing any type of buy and holds at any extent, whether it's a single family home or an apartment without having a mass amount of equity. So I'm having roughly 30% equity when we finish this. Now, we are very conservative. We actually believe it's going to be north of this, right? So we have about another 10% that we believe that it's going to be valued at. So I think this values, my own belief says it values somewhere 2.7 to 3, but we want to be conservative to make sure all the economics are going to work. But you will see here, kitchens, we're going to spend 150 grand, baths 50, windows 35,000, plumbing 50. So Roddy has done a great job building this all out, giving us as close as he can. There's no perfect world. And with a certain amount of margin, I forget what you adjust for, Roddy. Do you go a 5% margin of error? or 10?
I go no, I go 10% because especially the larger, honestly, the larger the project, the more margin I give because there's all kinds of
Totally.
things that can happen. However, I do believe that this one's not going to be as challenging in terms of construction as most would look at this. We got the blessing from the city. And myself, Anthony, Jack, and Hannah went to the city, met with the city. They gave us the blessings on that. They're fully aware of what we're doing. And people are like, that's not a big deal. It's an absolutely monster deal because as long as the city's behind us, they're going to give us what we need in a timely manner, which means our files matter, our permits will be processed faster. If we have any questions and need the inspector to come out and look at something, they're going to do it because to them, we did it right. We met with them. They know this is a big development. And at the end of the day, the city is all about this type of stuff right now. This area for this type of building is going to blow up. It's just outside the stadiums. The college is around the corner in that downtown area. It was actually nice. Anthony and I went to a coffee shop. I was like, damn, thinking this is Birmingham. It's actually real nice. So there's a lot of redevelopment going on around this area. So this is a good time to get in. It's a good time to get in with the city because if this goes as well as we hope that it's going to go, and I'm sure it's going to, now the city's going to love us and say, buy us some more shit, and hopefully we can get some grants. They're going to help us by providing us grants and providing us maybe possibly loans to do more shit. And who's going to say no to that? Nobody.
Nobody. And so just briefly, again, these are all going to be, pretty conservative, but you can see the numbers here in terms of operating revenue. You can see the cash flow essentially is $63,000 a month. You have the debt of 145, you have the operating income at 209, and then so you have the income minus debt 63,000, but then you also have all the other costs, taxes, management, etc., right? So we account for all of that. The expenses of 76. We have the income at 209, debt 145, right? So there's your net operating income. You have these are the makeup of the units. Okay. And so we actually believe we're going to be able to get much higher rents for these, but we wanted to make sure that uh, we could essentially model it conservatively so that we knew like we might be able to get this to 950 when we're done with all these. And you can imagine, I don't want to play with our spreadsheet, but you can imagine 950 in what that will do to our bottom line. So our total revenue comes in here. Our total comes in here. Vacancy was just 6%. You have all the expenses at 76,000, which gives you the net operating income. You subtract the debt servicing, and you wind up with $63,000 in net profit. So this deal makes sense just on an economic cash flow. Cool. But again, if you guys have ever really followed me, when I buy rentals, I don't care if it's a single family home or if it's going to be an apartment like this of 32 doors, I want to make sure I have the equity. So as cool as this is, you must make sure the property cash flows at the model you perform it at, not at projected. We might be able to raise rents to 900, 950, or even 1,000. What is more important for me in this property is going to be this. It's going to be the fact that we are going to be, where was it? We're going to have a value of 2.5 million and we're going to be into it for give or take 1.5, right? That 30% equity is everything to me beyond just the fact that it cash flows. So I'm looking at three things, everybody, when I'm buying any type of cash flowing asset, single family home or apartment. Does it cash flow on the conservative pro forma? Does it cash flow right now the way that it's built? So if that is a yes, and this obviously does, that is part number one. The other part will be how much equity do I have in this property? Because I want to have a minimum, bare bones minimum 20% equity. Really, I want 20 to 30, somewhere around 25. This also hits that mark as well, right? And so I want to make sure those two functions really, really work. And then also, is there an opportunity to do a depreciation? So in commercial, the cost segregation study that we're going to be able to run on this, and if we get a valuation of $2.5 million or more, which I expect we will, we're going to have multiple six figures of tax write-offs for me as the owner based around the cost segregation study that will help me in taxes. So not only am I getting an asset that has a bunch of equity that allows me to go get bankable, that I'm making money each and every month profitable in terms of expenses and costs. And then also, I don't have to go pay taxes. So I can rinse and repeat and do it again. And I can leverage the equity in this apartment to go get a bank loan to go buy another apartment. So I can do it again next year. It is the business model everyone should be in. Roddy, I'll shut up now because I know you uploaded some
Oh no,
videos
no,
and
you're
photos.
good. I think Anthony's trying to get in. He said, "Can you let him in?"
And then, by the way, if you're watching this on Facebook or even here on Zoom, ask your questions. I'll hopefully write your questions in the thread, or even if you just like what I just showed you guys, make sure you say, hell yeah, give this post some love. Everyone needs to see this because they're always asking me, what's your buy box? Why are you buying? What does it look like? This is it. This is why I'm doing a case study. We just bought this literally funded, I think, last week, Monday. And Anthony and Roddy have already been out. They've already done all this. We've already taken the pictures. But those economics are why I buy this. So you guys understand the economics behind this. It isn't just about cash flow. I just want to echo this one last time. Cash flow is great. There's no doubt. I like having income. But what really is the biggest cherry on top that I actually kind of focus more on is what kind of tax write-offs can I get alongside of the income. Because if I can go in and I can get a year worth of work and not have to pay any taxes, and this tax write-off of the cost seg is going to be so big, I'll likely be able to push that into 2025 and save taxes then too, then this is a typical rinse and repeat. How many of these can I buy each and every year so I no longer have to cut a check to the IRS? That's a big thing. I know many of you on here are W-2 employees. How cool would it be if you didn't have to cut a check to the IRS every year? It'd be pretty darn cool. And by the way, if I'm calling you guys out, I apologize, but if you're not paying taxes, you're not making enough money. Period. End of story. No one can fight with that. Now, if you're not paying taxes because you buy properties like this, now that is a different story. Roddy, go ahead, bro. And then ask
Yeah,
your
man.
question in the thread in Facebook, guys.
Yeah, so dude, just more pictures, right? Just to give the scope of the layout here. So more shots of the middle building, building number two. Here's a long run of it, so it kind of gives you an idea of what the hills look like and the houses behind it. Which brings me to another point. You know, being in this area, developing this entire, because this is a corner piece. There's a lot of houses around here. You can see up at the top up here. Let's see if I can annotate. No. So you'll see there's a house up here, right? There's houses over here, but all this is a hill. So it's kind of like, I guess, sunken down, if you will, into the land. But there's a house this way that you could buy. There's a house this way you could buy. So I was going to tell you guys, Justin and Anthony, like consider buying the block, right? Because if you've got the idea that we're going to put all these buildings together, we're going to change the landscape of that entire neighborhood. So why not start looking at buying those single families around there? That's the only time I'd ever say buy single family in Birmingham. But if you're going to buy the block, there's your opportunity, if that makes sense. This gives you a perfect idea of what these buildings look like. They all look like this. So you'll see new roof. We're great there. Metal. Awesome. They actually did a very good job. I checked all the trimmings. They have the flashing. We're good there. And it's so cookie cutter. You can literally say how many windows we need. It is absolutely cookie cutter. Right. All of the brick is in great condition. I mean, there was no what we call stair casing, meaning where there was no tuck pointing issues. There weren't any cracks in the side, which means that there's no sagging or settling in the wrong way structurally. So we like that. This obviously is garbage, but it is what it is. It's your parking lot. I just said get a guy out there with a hot weed whacker, and then you can tar this. You know, you just patch it. This doesn't need a lot of love. It just needs landscaping, if you will. But we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of these, right? You see that we already got the stem for electric. So a lot of the goods are still on this house. This gives you perspective from the street. This is the main street. Okay. Then it goes up that way. So this is actually building one. All right. That's a single family home I'm telling you about. They're small, you can buy them. Small, you can buy them. But again, just looking from the street, imagine all of this painted, right? All this is one color painted. It's going to look beautiful. It's going to have a wooden staircase that comes down. All of this would be a two-tone, right? So this thing is honestly, it's cookie cutter, and these aren't that large. You're talking 700 to 800 square feet per unit. And when you run the plumbing, you're running the shitter north and south. Everything's going to be in the same location. When you run the electrical, it is what it is. Again, we'll work on this. This is probably the worst one in terms of parking lot where there's some work done and you can see where they used asphalt before. This one I might just have them cut out and repave just so that it's smooth going up. But it kind of gives you the grandeur. That's a huge truck that Jack drives. Obviously, that's Hannah's. We're behind her, so it gives you perspective how big the buildings are in comparison to the vehicles. And then again, another shot from the street to see how they start. Right. So this is building one. This is building two. It keeps going. This is the fire damage building, as you could tell, and you can see here. So the good thing about fire damage homes, especially when there's other ones in comparison next neighbor, like next door neighbors, you can see how they were built. Therefore, you have an idea like by being able to sit on top of this and look down, I know exactly how this is built. I know exactly how this is built. So when we go redevelop it, it's cookie cutter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's funny that you said that. I was going to ask you right away because I know you and Anthony are talking more than I am. And it's fun, guys, for all of you watching this. This is fun for me because Anthony, my general manager, quite literally runs the entire business, right? So I don't get to engage with Roddy barely at all. I mean, obviously we're friends, but Anthony really runs this from head to tail. So a question I have, because I don't know the answer, are you just going to cut out that front part of the driveway, or do we want to go repave the whole thing to really make it feel good when all the tenants come in? Or
Great
is that just
question. No, no, that's a great question. So let me find the budget. What I usually do here is, what I usually do, you guys can
you
see my
guys are
budget.
learning about our deal the same time I'm learning about our deal, guys. I'm asking questions even though I just bought it because I don't have all the answers to some of these things, and so this is fun for me too.
You guys see my budget sheet, right?
Yep. Are you just using a like an iPad or some sort of note or something?
I'm on I'm on right now. I'm on three things. I got my phone, I got my laptop, and I got my iPad. Right now, I'm on my iPad
That's awesome.
because my app works better with the pen when I can like annotate and stuff. So here's how we broke down that actual project, right? So in certain line items, we can manipulate them. I'm not worried about it. Remember, as long as this number right here, the 893 for us, doesn't change, right? That's the hope is that number doesn't change. But I can go in there and reallocate that line item. I can reallocate this line item if we're short somewhere, right? I could say,
Is
oh,
there a way
we're
for
going
you
to
to
do this.
zoom in a little bit, Roddy? Like, are you able
Yeah.
to zoom in on the budget?
Oh, yeah.
There you
Better.
go. Yeah.
So again, our goal is to make sure that number doesn't change. However, if it changes, we don't want it to be $1 million. We'd like to stay around 900 to 950. That's our thought process here. But you see how we look at certain things. These are just preliminary budgets. They're fairly close and accurate, but they're preliminary budgets based on, again, this is before we walked it. Now that we've walked it, I'm going to reallocate line items. But you can do that. For a lot of you guys who don't know that, the lenders don't give a shit how many times you reallocate your budget as long as you give notice before you ask for a draw, right? So I'll just say, hey, I am going to do this. I am going to take line 26 and 27 and 28, and I'm going to add some more money, but I'm going to take some money from somewhere else in the budget, right? So I just want to make sure the right line items are heavy and the right line items are small. So to answer your question, we're talking about 12 grand just for the parking lot. That 12 grand would be just for that front end that I was talking about. If you wanted to redo the entire parking lot, I'd have to borrow money from other line items. But before we do that, I want to make sure that the budget at hand is actually fully operational. Meaning, before I start borrowing, and I'm not done, but if you've ever looked at all of our budgets, Anthony knows this and Carson knows this. I always make line 19 heavy as hell. Because if I say in a Pensacola house, the roof is 6,500 and it comes up back at 9,500, I'm not going to argue. I'm just going to borrow that 4Gs from line 19, right? So we absolve all the money for roof in line 20. I'm just going to take the difference out of line 19, labor and carpentry. That's why I do it that way. So this number is going to be heavy. It's going to probably match your number that's on your spreadsheet, about 110, 111 or something like that. But all I'm doing is sharing with you and sharing with the viewers that I can move these numbers around at will anytime I need to, based on how the project is going. You know,
But that would be a
framing.
last. The drive would probably be one of the last, if not the very last thing we would do. Correct?
Oh, dude, that and landscaping would be the last things we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Because
I
if
mean, so
you
we
were,
have time to make the decision.
oh yeah, oh yeah. The reality is, if you were going to be the one, like let's say you were selling this, then our goal would be get the exterior painted, get the windows in, build the stairs, and get the parking lot and landscaping done. So that obviously, like Hannah could pre-list. In this case, we're not pre-listing anything; we're renting. So We just want to get the interiors done, building by building, rent them out, go to the next building, rent them out, go to the next building, rent it out, go to the next building, right? It's very strategic on that level. So yeah, the parking lot is going to be one of the last things we do. I might have them weed whack the shit out of it just to get all the weeds out of there and clean it up first, but we won't actually do any
Yeah.
paving or repairing till months from now.
Yep.
So this kind of gives you perspective on how the framing on the inside was. This is the fire one, so obviously all that's going to go no matter what. And here's a lesson on this. I get this question all the time in my private group too. Is oh, this looks salvageable, but you don't understand that the heat warps all of this. Yeah, you can paint over that. Yeah, you can paint over that. But this may longer be flush and plumb. Flush and plumb means 90 degrees. Everything warps with heat. Metal warps, right? So the integrity of the structure has got to go regardless because you can see how bad the fire was. All of this will not be able to hold. Like I didn't bother standing on it. I'm 250 pounds. I'm like, I'm not standing on that thing. There's no point. I already know it's going to give. So a lot of people don't see. They think like, oh, they're still framing it. We can use it. No, by all means, do not use anything existing in a pre-fire house. Get rid of it. Plan to get rid of it. More perspective on the entranceway kind of coming in, right? You kind of coming in this way. So you kind of see the difference in space between there. So you can have a couple cars, but not many. I mean, these aren't large lots. I think the one over here has a bigger parking lot than this, but this is building one too. So again, it's just the same thing. There's not much to look at. Again, these videos probably won't play. Good to know you can't play videos on Zoom. All right, but that gives you perspective.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
okay.
stop sharing. I'm gonna stop sharing now and
Ian,
give it back to you.
Crucian, are you there, bro?
I am.
Hey, baller.
About time you got your shit together, bro. We're missing you.
Yeah, goodness gracious. You made me run the numbers. So we found this one. I want to be clear on where we found it, right? Because everyone's gonna say, "Oh, how do you find them?" So we found this where through another investor local to Birmingham, another wholesaler.
This is one of the wholesalers that is from our own Science of Flipping network.
Our boy Adam found it, right?
It's Adam.
Our guy, he's on this call right now. And so this is exciting because what I tell you guys, it's always well, a large part of success in our real estate space is going to be people, right? So I met Roddy, for example, about a year ago in Tampa. No, we met but prior to that over the phone. I was introduced
Yeah.
to Roddy through a friend of ours, Brandon. Um, Within a month or two, we meet in Tampa, and now he essentially has 30 rehab projects for us. And it's because we hit it off, and he just came across as a no bullshit Chicagoan. If that's even how you say that. And no, well, fucking that, whatever. So, but I like that, right? Where he'll just be raw and real, and he'll take his, he doesn't over promise, under deliver, and if it's not right, he accounts for it and says, "My bad, I'll make it happen." And so, I say that to say Adam brought us this deal. He's a member of the Science Flipping community and has been for over a year. He knows I'm looking to get in a small multifamily. How does he know that? Because I start talking about it. So he goes out and finds it. So he had a payday. And, the other investor essentially, my understanding, Anthony, is this was an investor who bought it initially and just got ahead of their skis. They didn't have a Roddy to help them with this. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, he bought maybe 5 different apartments in Birmingham and just overwhelmed himself. We bought another one from him 2 weeks before this. So we got 2 from this investor and we're still going to look at a couple more.
I like it. Well, good. Well,
sometimes in this game, somebody else's loss is your gain, and that's the beauty of having the ability to look at numbers fast, right? On the investment side, you got to look at the numbers super fast, but on the construction side, you got to be also equally as fast, if at all possible. And a lot of guys just aren't. They need time, and sometimes you don't need an exact number. You just need a ballpark. Should I do the deal or should I not do the deal? And a lot of these guys, for all the listeners, you'll find more deals from other investors who obviously, like you said, get ahead of their skis more often than they'll ever admit. But those are good deals. If you can look at them real quick, they're great deals because they fucked up. This could be your win.
So one quick question for Anthony for Sean, but before I get there, Roddy, are you in an opera hall? Where the hell are you?
So I'm at it's called the Palmer House. It's a beautiful hotel.
That's
And I
fantastic.
like this. Oh, it's about 150-year-old hotel. It's one of the most beautiful hotels in Chicago. The size and scope of this place. Anyway, no, me and my girl came down for a staycation for Valentine's Day. So we stay at the hotel. We were downstairs. It's STK down the street. So I'm like, let's get the room.
Nice. Perfect.
But I
I
like
love it.
working here because it's like a huge workspace too. I mean, it's nice.
Love that. Well, I appreciate you jumping on, dude. And I know you are with your loved one, bro. And so if you do
Oh,
need to
we're
jump
good.
on. So,
We're good.
Anthony, in terms of the numbers, I showed the spreadsheet. Do you want me to re-show it and you want to review it? I mean, we bought it for 620-ish. We're gonna have roughly a $900,000, renovation. We budgeted $775 per unit, although I think we are being very conservative there. And we have a conservative $2.4 million ARV when we're done. Um, and we have roughly a conservative $63,000 net monthly income after expenses, after debt servicing, etc. Do you want to see that, or is there anything? Do you maybe want to say where we actually really end up believing where we're going to be, even though those numbers are conservative?
Yeah, we think we can get 800 per unit, 825, maybe 850 if the neighborhood gets where it's headed on time. I don't know if you talked about the neighborhood before I got on. I jumped over from another.
I talked about it a little bit, but I didn't get into the details. I just talked about that there's a possibility to acquire some single families around here. We could buy the block. There's a lot of development happening in the area in general, and over the next couple of years, it's going to be a good place to be. But that's as far as I went.
And if I change this, Anthony, would this like ruin everyone? If like with this, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. And then I want to take this all the way down. Does that do that? How do you do that?
Yeah, you had it. Jarrett.
Yeah, look at me work technology. Come on, dude.
Bro, I
I
thought you
run
went to
technology.
UCLA, dude.
I learned English at UCLA, and I didn't even know if I learned that either.
The King's Speech English? The King's Speech.
I just call it. I don't even think it's English. I don't know what the hell at UCLA. I learned how to make sure I got a diploma at the end of it. That's all I learned. But you guys can see that number was 24,000. It's now going to be 27,000. So that's an extra $3,000 a month. You guys can see it went from $63,000 net cash flow to $88,000 cash flow.
By adding 100 square feet.
So by adding $75 a month in rent. And so you can see how quickly, like if you run it conservative in it cash flows, it just looks that much better when you come to reality, right? And so that's really, really important. And I might have misspoke. This is annual, everybody. I apologize. This was not monthly. I was saying monthly the whole time, but if you look, this is all the annual. And so my apologies for everybody. But again, does $88,000 a year make or break my financial world? It doesn't make or break my financial world or Anthony's financial world. I like the $88,000 a year, but I didn't buy this, or we didn't buy this because of that. We bought it for the three main principles, which is there's four really. I want to make sure it cash flows great. We have the income. I want to make sure that we have tax write-offs. I want to make sure we're in a market that appreciates, right? These are the big four that I want to make sure that we do, or big three, sorry. Income, tax write-off, and appreciation. Because if we just ride the appreciation over the next 5 years in a market like Birmingham, Alabama, I think we're going to have, again, total guesstimate, but I think this valuation turns into closer to 3.5. And now the numbers start to get a little silly, right? So I had a tax write-off of multiple six figures. I have income every month, and then there's an exit north into seven figures, all within 5 years. And I believe Birmingham, Alabama, to be that market that's going to have that type of appreciation. That is also why I don't invest in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't dislike Cleveland. There's no appreciation in Cleveland, right?
So Jay, the fun part now that you bump the rent up, take the new NOI. What do you got? 234.
Where am I? What are you looking at?
Yeah, you're almost just down a hair. So you got net operating income now with the new rent is 234. Divide that by 0.08, which is the cap rate that the appraiser told us we're using in town, and we go to 2.9 instead of 2.4 million for the ARV.
So you
So
take the
that $75 between the 775, which was a conservative number for rent, and where it really could be come fall when we start renting these, is $500,000 in valuation on the back end.
Isn't that crazy? Just by bumping it $75 a month. Anthony, I'm not an Excel spreadsheet wizard, so I wanted to do that over here, but whatever. But you take this, you divide it by how much? 0.8?
Yep. Divided by 0.08.
0.08, and then it will spit out a number that's closer to 2.9. So this becomes 2.9, and we made $500,000 in evaluation without the appreciation part, without just by bumping rent $75 a month. That's where it gets really fun. Gets really fun. But you also want to have the opportunity to buy a property that you have an upside like that, right? If it rents conservatively and looks good, then having upside to maximize rents makes it that much better. We have a ton of questions flowing through, and we do not have time. Roddy has to.
I have an idea. I have a totally no. Honestly, I'm here to help everybody on the call. So here's what we can do. I'm gonna type in the participants in the messages. I'll type my email, okay, and my cell number. Text or email me your questions. I'm gonna be sitting here for the next couple of hours anyway, working, and I'll get to those. Let me just post this somewhere for you guys.
You want to just put it in Zoom?
Yeah, if you want to just take my number, take my cell, I can give it to you right now. Q&A. I'm just gonna give it right. Ready? Here goes. Everybody, get a pen. My phone number 847-899-5713. 847-899-5713. Text me. Or my email, simple, Ryan or YAN at therehabdepot.com. Ryan at therehabdepot.com. Send me all your questions, brother. Anybody, I'll help you.
There you go. Anthony, any last parting words?
Yeah, we've talked about Birmingham being appreciating market, and it is, obviously, especially this neighborhood. People know we've bought in these two there and have started sending me more things in Birmingham. Not every neighborhood in Birmingham, I promise, is on the up like this one is. So they put it, Justin, you talked a little bit about it, I'm sure. Just 2 blocks south of here, they have built a new stadium for like a United States Football League team. There's a convention center. There is something Hall of Fame. There are high-end condos. There's restaurants on the ground floor. Kind of a hipster. They call it Uptown. They renamed the town, revitalized it. The public transportation comes through, and they put cool little parks in there with all sorts of stuff for people to hang out and do. Top Golf is right there already. They're tearing down an old hospital on the corner of that block. They're putting in a 9,000 seat outdoor concert venue. Like, it is becoming the district, the uptown, the spot where everything is coming to. Not every single neighborhood in Birmingham is. So I always take a look around. I get on Google, Google Streets. I'll drive up and down, look for the 10 closest businesses. Those will give you a clue if the neighborhood is ready to turn over. This one is. Not all of them are.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the last thing I want you guys to do is watch a case study like this and just whimsically go out and buy something in Alabama or Birmingham, or, you know what I mean? There's, Roddy has a stronghold there in the sense like he's done a lot of business there over the years. So he felt comfortable. He has a team there. We know markets like that. We've bought a lot over in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. We're familiar with Florida. So we already have a general sense of construction budget based around all the deals that we've done. So I don't want you to take this case study and then say, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to go buy an apartment because Justin did it, right? Like, and or even a single family home for that matter. Make sure you're doing it right. Make sure again, this would be a soft sell for you guys. If you really want to learn my process on what I do and how I do it, how we're buying 2 to 5 homes a week, how Roddy runs our construction, how we're finding them, what marketing we're using, how we're underwriting apartments. If you really want the A to Z process of what we do, I encourage all of you to talk to me, right? We can talk about me coaching. You go to justincolbycoaching.com, justincolbycoaching.com, and let's have an honest discussion. Um, a 32-door apartment, one of the buildings fire damage is probably not for the newbie, but doesn't mean you can't go get a fire damage single family home and wholesale it and go make 5, 10, 15, $20,000. You can do that. But there's a process behind what we do. I've done this 16 years, right? Anthony has now run my company for 9 of those years. Don't be short-sighted. Make sure you get with me if you have interest in actually understanding the processes and the strategies to get here. I'll just, condense your learning curve. I'll help you avoid a lot of the losses that I've had to take over 16 years. So if you want to directly talk to me, go to justincolbycoaching.com, fill out an application, and I personally will reach out to you to talk to you about what it's like to be the part of the science flipping community. Be a student of mine and a member. We have 9 calls a week. It is very engaging, very interactive. Anthony is a heavy part of that. We do a lot of deals with our members. I buy from my members. I want to teach you how to go find deals so I can buy them so you can get your first check fast. Again, justincolbycoaching.com. Hit me up. It's an application. We'll go from there. Roddy, I appreciate you. Knock it out, dude. I'm sure you and Anthony will be talking shortly. Anthony, I appreciate you, dude. And that's all.
Everybody, I put my contact info in the chat. So if anybody needs to message me, my email, my phone number, message. I'll see you guys.
100%.
Talk soon.
Later.
All right. Talk to you guys.
Later.